36% of children in South Africa live in the same household as their biological father, and 35% of children live in the same household with a man who is not their biological father. This is part of the State of South Africa's Fathers 2018 report, launched by the Sonke Gender Justice and the Human Sciences Research Council. The report highlights the importance of father involvement irrespective of marital or residence status. Moving away from the deficit model of absent fatherhood, the report focuses on the involvement of non-resident biological and social fathers in parenting and caregiving. To discuss this, we're joined from our Durban studios by Dr Tawanda Makusha from the HSRC, and in Cape Town, I think it's via Skype, we've got Wessel van den Berg from Sonke Gender Justice. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us on the program.
Thank you, Leanne.
Thank you, Leanne.
All right, Tawanda, I'm going to begin with you. What is the vision of this particular report? I mean, there's no typical father in South Africa. I mean, there really are many different types of fathers, different types of fatherhoods in the country. Talk to us about this.
Thanks, Leanne. Good morning to the viewers. I think the report provides opportunities for South Africa as a nation to say, here is the statistics, this is what we know about the state of fathers in South Africa, and we have to use this and say, what do we need to do going forward? We agree that South African families are not a typical nuclear household setup where we've got a mother, a father, and two children. We agree that most children live in households that are extended, and we also agree that most children live in households where they might not be living with their biological father. But we've got 71% of children in households living with an adult man in the household. So what this report tries to move away from is, like you say, it is the deficit model of deficit perceptions that fathers are uninvolved, fathers are violent, fathers are abusive. What we're trying to say is we agree that yes, we've got other men that are abusive, that are violent, but most men actually want to be present, they want to be involved, and they want to provide some kind of caregiving and support for their children, regardless of their resident status, regardless of their marital status with their partners. What this means is that yes.
I'm going to have to. We're already running into time problems, unfortunately, Tawanda. So I'm just going to ask you to speed up your answers, and also I want to try and bring Wessel into the conversation. And I think we've kind of gathered a bit of an understanding from you with regard to the definition of fatherhood. But Wessel, I want to get a bit of a difference as well between the issue of an absent father and social fatherhood. What are we referring to here?
Leanne, the problem that this report tries to counter is to move away from the inaccurate use of the term absent fathers, because a person who lives in the same household may not be involved, but what we also saw with this report is that non-resident fathers can be very involved. So they are very present in the child's life. So therefore we wanted to stimulate research questions that pick up the facts about whether social fathers who are not biological fathers can be actively involved in a child's life. We're moving away from trying to bring back the father or the biological father only, but to look broader and see how we can activate the fatherhood that is around the household in the men who could potentially contribute towards alleviating the burden of care that women currently carry.
Yeah. You know, I imagine over the years have changed in terms of the state of fatherhood in South Africa. Tawanda, if you can very quickly sort of talk to us, how are we doing?
So what has happened is what we can take from this is we actually have a recognition that we've got a problem. We've got a high non-co-resident father-child in South Africa, and what that means and what that provides is we want to say, okay, what is it that we need to do in our family policies? What is it that we need to do for our advocacy? We need to have such a campaign like the treatment action campaign, where, you know, South Africa as a country went all out and said, okay, we want universal access of antiretroviral drugs. This is the same kind of stance that we need to take in South Africa and say, how do we make more men involved? How do we encourage further involvement? How do we ensure that a child is safe around men, even those who are not biologically related to them? This is what we're advocating for. We are advocating for unity of purpose. Like we're saying, researchers, like academics, we're saying community members, we're saying pastors, we're saying government officials. They need to come together and say, this is what we know. We've got 36% of children living in households with their biological fathers. What is it that we're going to do about it? And we need to emphasize the positivist attitude rather than negative perceptions around violence, around abuse.
Yeah. Wessel, this is unfortunately my last question that I can actually pose on the show this morning, because we've run out of time. But Wessel, to you, one of the reflections of the report from Mbuyiselo Botha from the Commission of Gender Equality says, although my mom kept assuring me that all will be well, I desperately needed my father at that time to also affirm me as a man that I will be fine. Unfortunately, he wasn't there at that critical moment in my life. And this is something that's very, very relevant, is the fact that a father contributes so much to the development of a child. So what does that do to a child when you don't have a father figure? What are the repercussions for South African society?
Leanne, the main repercussion is that women end up doing the care work on their own. And in Mbuyiselo's introduction, it is very interesting to keep on reading and to see that there was a man who did step in and played a valuable caring role in his life, one Ntate Moagi. So that is the major impact currently, is that the burden of care falls to women, mostly grandmothers and mothers. And that is what men's contribution to care work can counter, is to give women more time for leisure and for economic activity. One of the, and I'll end with this, one of the most useful findings from the report is that when men access the child support grant, by the way, men qualify for the child support grant, but when men access the child support grant, they did not use it for irresponsible spending like alcohol or tobacco. They used it on the same things that mothers do, which is school fees, nutrition, and the care of the child. So there is a sign of hope.
Yeah. All right. We leave it there, unfortunately. Thank you, gentlemen. We really do appreciate it. But I urge you to go out and have a look and read this particular report. It is called it's basically the Fatherhood, the State of South Africa's Fathers 2018. It's a report that's out. It came out in July this month, and it's well worth having a look at. So Google that and you'll find it. It's on the website of Sonke Gender Justice and many other websites as well. Dr Tawanda Makusha from the HSRC and Wessel van der Berg from Sonke Gender Justice. We take a break.